So the first thing I want to talk about then is the recipes. So you've got them in front of you. And yeah, if you want to too, you're welcome to take pictures yourself with your phones. So the recipes, are, we're doing chicken tacos, baked chicken tacos, and then we're doing some citrus black beans as well. So as you look over the recipes, I'm pretty sure there weren't any food allergies, but does anyone have any food allergies? Anything we're worried about? All right, sweet. So we're gonna talk about two main topics kind of generally today, and they have to do with My Plate, which is over there on the TV. The first topic we're going to talk about is just increasing fruits and vegetables, and then the second one we're going to talk about is lean protein consumption or non-meat protein consumption as well. So those are the two things we're kind of going to focus on today as our main points. But before we get started, what I want y'all to do is I'm going to ask you when you get up here after washing your hands, if you could tell me something food or nutrition-wise or food preparation-wise that's challenging for you. So it could be like, it's hard for me to get a lot of variety, or I don't really know how to plan my meals, or I don't necessarily have a ton of time for cooking, or I don't know the first thing about food safety, or I just don't like a lot of picky eater, whatever. Something that's challenging, or if there's nothing that's challenging, you can be like, I'm perfect. And that's fine too.
Sweet.
So we're all going to line up here, and then take turns washing our hands. There's trashes there. Use the hand soap up here. This is dish soap, so use that. Those are paper towels. So tell me your name, and then whatever thing you're kind of thinking of. All right, so let's all stand up. Come on over here. And I'll go first. Like I said, my name is Ben, and don't worry about standing in front of the camera. I don't really care about that.
Did you want us to sign in?
Yeah, Ernest.
Yeah, you can pass it around.
Oh, Ernest.
So,
Paying attention.
like I said, my name is Ben, and sometimes it's challenging for me because I do a lot of traveling to prepare all the food that I want. That can be kind of challenging for me, especially because I'm preparing it for myself and not like 5 other people, or there's not other people depending on me, things like that.
My name's Natalie. And something that's challenging for me, so I'm kind of an impatient chef, so I don't like to spend a lot of time doing things. So I eat a lot of bland food. So I'm interested, or I'm challenged by doing something easy to spice up.
Alright, cool.
Give suggestions? Or are we just
Oh, we'll get
sharing
to
our
it. Yeah, we're just sharing, and
challenges?
at some point we may touch on these things. Maybe not. And you can grab a seat.
My name's Brian. I guess trouble sometimes if you find a recipe and it has a bunch of spices you don't have already.
Yeah,
And what do you do about that?
sure.
Or you buy a bunch of spices and you need more ones or something.
And then you got a spice cabinet. Full of stuff.
Challenge.
My name's Zach, and I guess the biggest thing is taking the time to actually make something, especially if it has a lot of ingredients. I just want to be
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the real thing, dude.
3 ingredients.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fewer ingredients, easier. Don't have an ingredient list that you don't know what to do with afterwards.
I'm Ernest, and it's just, I have some difficulty finding the time in between things.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else have that issue? No? Also me.
Kenny, I am good at cooking vegetables.
Alright. Doing good.
Welcome, Kenny.
How long have you been not doing it? We could treat this like an AA meeting.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, but. We'll be listening to Otis Redding the whole time.
Missouri, and I love vegetables, but I hate that I only basically consume them with raw.
Alright. So maybe a bit more on the continuum, but not that far away from
Yeah, nothing too crazy, but
the vegetable cooking continuum. And y'all is everyone here in the math department? Get out.
Am I the only outsider?
I always
yes.
I was like, yeah, totally.
else.
I'm a grad student in art history,
Sweet.
so
Yeah.
I'm really an
Pretty
outsider.
Awesome. Go for it.
Robert, I'm not a cook.
All right. Sweet.
That's your challenge. No, but he made lunch for the first time. We're office mates.
Yeah.
I took a photo of him. It
What
was
did you
a
make?
We had a sandwich. It's adorable. It was in a bag from like Kroger.
What is any sandwich? Walmart.
Sorry.
What is any sandwich?
I was giving you the benefit of it.
Turkey? Cheese?
It was a kilo of bread. And the bread, and it was like American food and meat.
I'm Dan.
Sorry.
I don't have a car, so Final Fight Calories.
Yeah, sure.
To,
Get it.
we shop once every 10 days.
Yeah.
There are always a couple of days where you don't have fresh stuff. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So planning maybe is something that's kind
Yeah.
of challenging. Yeah.
I'm Erin. I guess I'm hoping to learn more about like safety procedures in terms of cooking with ramen, because I feel like it's something that I avoid just because I'm afraid of
Yeah,
giving myself food
that
poisoning.
makes
So
sense. Who wants to do that?
no one.
That'd be an unfortunate way to get your fix. Food poisoning yourself.
I frequently don't use produce before it goes bad.
Alright.
More creative ways to use ingredients.
To use ingredients. Alright, cool. Alright, so at the end, if we haven't answered major portions of these questions and you still want to know answers about them, I'm totally happy to have a question and answer session at the end as well. So the first thing we're going to do then is start out on our fajita recipe. And we're going to be there for a while because we want to get it in the oven, and while that's in the oven, we can do the bean recipe afterwards. So I've done a lot of vegetable prep already. We're doing 4 times the recipe on the chicken recipe and twice the recipe for the beans. And so rather than have us all sitting here watching people cut for a while, I've done a lot of the prep. So I've done like 3 bell peppers, most of the onions, and some of the zucchini as well. But we're gonna have one of every one of those to cut, as well as some of the other ingredients in the bean recipe. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about a bit about safety. If you've got a cutting board that doesn't have like rubber things on the corners that kind of help it keep still, putting a paper towel that's damp or a regular towel or 2 underneath it, just depending on how much area you've got to cover down there. Putting that over it is going to help make sure the cutting board doesn't move around all over the place. So when a cutting board isn't moving, then it's less likely we're going to get ourselves. The other thing to talk about then is knives. So I'm going to demo one way to hold the knife. Y'all can hold it however you want. When you are cutting though, I ask you just to go slowly, and it's not because I don't believe you can cut vegetables, it's so I can make sure that you don't actually get yourself. There's some pretty varying abilities there. So if you're right-handed, you're going to take your thumb and your pointer finger and kind of clutch up on the knife like that, and then take your other 3 fingers and bring them around. So we're holding it like this, kind of clutched up on it, not like this with all of our fingers on there, not with a finger up top, and not like this, as Natalie knows the joke never changes. So we're clutched up on it like that, and with our other hand, our left hand, our off hand, we're going to take that and put that flat on the table. So everyone go ahead and put it flat on the table in front of you. And we're going to use that to kind of hold whatever we're cutting most of the time. So you put it flat and then you bring it up, and you'll notice that those knuckles are kind of forward of your fingertips, and that's where we're going to rest the knife. All right? So we're going to use that to kind of gauge thickness and also rest the knife there, because if we rest it on the bottom of our fingertips, we're more likely to get ourselves. And this is kind of further up the knife. All right? I'm using a 6-inch here. We've got 8-inch as well. This is just if the thing we're cutting is longer and we don't have enough real estate on the knife to deal with this one. But I like using the 6-inch because it gives you more control versus the one that's a bit longer. So the general motion of the knife looks like this. We're going to go down and forward and then up and back, making sure that we get all the way, the tip's all the way down, and we're going to drive the tip up and make sure the back gets all the way down. So that's kind of the motion. I'm going to do the first half of this. What is this? Good work. This zucchini, which looks like it's seen better days, but it'll be fine. I'm going to do the first half, and one of y'all is going to come up and do the second half. All right, and the way this works is since Natalie kind of arranged it, she's going to call out the first person, they're going to come up, and then when they sit down, they're just going to call up the next person because they're going to call up their best friend. Your best friend will come up and start cutting.
You're making it, yeah, it's not good.
All right, so a lot of people kind of trim the ends off the zucchini, which is what we're going to do. So we'll take the ends off there, and then we're going to cut it down the middle. We want to get pieces that we would want to eat in a taco. So this is the shape that we're going for right now. You can do them smaller if you want in your taco. That works as well. And actually this first cut is a bit different. We're going to take our left hand and go up top and put the knife through. And then we can just go down and then drag towards us. Zucchinis are one of the easier things to cut. They're not super hard. And by that I mean like soft versus hard. And you can kind of, they're pretty nice to practice with. So I'll do this half. So this one you can see wasn't cut straight up and down. If you've got a pretty thick one, you can do it into thirds like that, or you can just do exactly what I did earlier, which is go in half, and then how long do we want it? About that long, so we're using kind of this to measure thickness, and that's it. So we've got 8 nice pieces here, and then the second half. So who wants to come up? Or Natalie, please volunteer.
How about Robert? He
Someone.
said it was an easy practice. You gotta learn, bud. He was on a meal plan all last year, so.
Awesome. That's probably a great
Anything
decision.
for Rob.
It was probably awesome, right, Robert?
I'll
Do I
take
come
photos
here?
for you.
Yeah, come on over, yeah. How was the meal plan?
It was fine.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
So wait, what do I do?
All right, so you're gonna hold the knife like we talked about.
Hold
Oh
it.
my gosh, he's so cute. Look at this.
You can just ignore
I took a
it.
picture of
All
his
right.
It's fine. That's great.
There it is.
The first thing you're gonna do is
First
just
day of teaching.
kind of put it on top here and then drag
And you go
it.
to
Drag
the
it back, so you're gonna cut it in
No.
half
Put it up
lengthwise.
top here.
If you wanna take your left hand, perfect.
Okay.
Very nice.
And put it.
And then just drag it towards you. Very nice. Perfect.
Nice.
Nice
You're
job.
doing good.
All right.
You're doing good.
So then you're going to rotate it 90 degrees. Good. And then you're going to cut it the thickness that you would want kind of in the tacos, maybe 3 or 4 cuts, and you can totally line them up.
Okay.
And if you want, you can use your knuckles like we were doing earlier. So if you want to put them flat and then up, you're going to hold them. You're going to hold it like that and then run the knife.
Okay.
Perfect. Very nice.
So,
And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, it's totally fine. Do whatever way
how
you want.
many pieces do we
That looks great.
Okay.
Whatever, if you feel like it's small enough to put in a singular taco, then that's the size you want.
Singular taco.
Yeah. I guess not. If you think it's small enough to put in 2 tacos at once, then that looks great. Yeah, you can finish up there, or you can do the last one if you want. Very nice. You can just put it in the bowl there. Put them all in the bowl there when you're done. Yep. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is chop this up. What is this?
Bell pepper.
Bell pepper. Nice. All right. A word about the zucchini. So that's great. You can grab a seat. Thanks so much. So a word about the zucchini. If you're looking at zucchini in the grocery store and you see the really, really wide ones and you don't want to deal with like really, really thick pieces, then go for the smaller ones because those are going to be easier to actually deal with when you're actually cutting. And there's going to be plenty of options there. There's going to be plenty of zucchini. So if you want the really small ones, so you don't have them this thick because you don't feel like doing the thirds thing, that's totally fine too. All right. So we've got a red bell here. This is how I like to break it down. We're going to take the knife and go like 1/2 to 1/4 inch from the top, like that, all the way down. So we've got the top, we've got a stem. I've got a compost bowl back here. That's what that is. So we got the top there, and then we kind of make a decision, and that decision usually is based on how many kind of blips we've got on the bottom. Or the decision is like how many sides this thing has, because we want to get some flat pieces. So how many sides do you think this thing has? 3 or 4-ish, right? It's kind of got that rounded thing there. It's kind of a troublesome one. But we're going to take the center out. So we'll just take our hand and grab the center out like that. If you want to, you could fill this up with dip or water or something like that. It totally holds things. But we're going to chop it up. So we're going to take the bottom off. And then we've got those sides, so probably 3. You can chop it into 3 sides, or you can do 1 cut if you're gonna do like we're doing, which is gonna get a lot smaller. You can just cut it once and just flatten the whole thing out. And that works too. I like cutting on the inside instead of the outside. The inside's a lot less leathery, so it's easier to kind of get your knife through. Really important though, especially with bell pepper, that you start on the cutting board and you drive the tip all the way up. Otherwise, you're gonna kind of cut, but it's not actually gonna separate. Right? So I'll do a couple of these. Remember, we're using our left hand to kind of gauge thickness. And the size we're looking for here, usually when you do fajita type things or tacos, you put strips in. Right? So if you wanted smaller pieces, you could use those strips and then come across and make some smaller pieces like that. But we're just going to leave it into strips. And what was your name again?
Robert.
Robert, pick someone to come up and start chopping some bell. Dan. Best friends right next to you.
I'm gonna switch it up because left-handed.
That's fair. Totally fine. Dan's done it before. Dan, watch your thumb, your right thumb there. Good. So Dan had his thumb out, and sometimes the thumb travels up above the fingers, and then we get red on our nice yellow cutting board. So, nice job, Dan. That was
take one of these for
fantastic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's clap for Dan. Does anybody else want a bell pepper snack? I can totally throw it to you. Alright, awesome.
Can you?
Absolutely.
Nice.
There you go. Alright, and so use the top and the bottom, especially if we're chopping up into smaller pieces. No need to waste that part. So, there's our bell pepper. All the onion is in the bowl over there. So what other ingredients do we need in the fajitas, or sorry, the tacos? Chicken. Let's start on chicken. That's the last thing we're going to chop, and then we'll have a bunch of ingredients in the bowls there to finish it up and mix them. Okay, so we've got a bunch of boneless, skinless chicken. What's in here?
Breast.
Good. All right, that is the part of the chicken. We're using chicken breast. And what we want to do first is, first we're going to clean the chicken breast, because you don't necessarily get them with all the fat off. You can certainly get them boneless, skinless, but this portion, these white portions, that's the fat. And there's not a ton, but it is nice to clean it off. One, to kind of reduce the fat we're taking in, but then also because it's not going to taste very good. It's going to be kind of grisly, all right? So there, you'll see that there's kind of a line here in the middle. You're never going to get that out. That's on every chicken breast, and you can keep digging. It's going to be really frustrating. So we just want these kind of big chunks here. That's what we're looking to get off. And this piece on the far right here, that is where it connects to the ribs. You're always going to have this little nub of meat. If you get boneless, skinless breast, it's always going to come with a tiny bit of rib meat. So that's totally fine to eat. We're going to take that off and put it in our bowl. But then we're going to take, you can use a paring knife or you can use a regular chef's knife if you want. Easy to kind of pull it up and then come across and take it off. You don't have to go too crazy with it. There's a tiny bit more over here. That should come off relatively easily, but we don't have to if we don't want to. If you're kind of nervous about cutting meat, that's totally fine. You don't have to take all the stuff off, just kind of the bigger chunks. So that's pretty good. We'll take this last line off, and the next person will do the other breast. So we've got that we got that from our paring knife. We're going to take our paring knife and put it away, and we'll use the 6-inch again. And then we're just going to cut it into strips, just like we did with the bell pepper. All right. So rather than that one motion, it's going to be almost impossible to get your knife all the way through on the first one. So we're just going to kind of do some sawing. And we'll separate it. There's a strip. And we're looking for pieces that are about 1/4 inch in length. Sorry, 1 inch in length. That's not what I meant either. About a 1/2 inch thickness, and whatever length the chicken breast is. That's what I meant. Okay, so we've got these lengths. You also, at some point, you might feel something that feels kind of like a bone. If you do feel something that feels like a bone, it's probably a bone, and you should go in there and get it out. Maybe they didn't do a perfect job making it boneless and skinless. So if you do feel something that's hard, you shouldn't really feel that, and you want to cut it out of there before you put it in, because no one wants to chomp on a bone if they think they're getting nice pieces of chicken that don't have any bones in them. All right, so just like again with the bell pepper, we're just gonna kind of come across. Doing some sawing is good. Really important to keep track of your fingers when you're cutting chicken. Some people's fingers blend in with the color of the chicken, and it's easier to actually get yourself. So really important to do that. Also, if you've got frozen chicken or slightly frozen chicken, that can be actually easier because it's not gonna kind of go all over the place. It's in a nice stationary place and you can cut it a lot easier. So if you've got partially frozen chicken, not totally frozen because you're not gonna be able to cut through that, that's gonna mess with your knife. But if you've got partially frozen, that's totally fine and possibly better for cutting. Do y'all know, so is it better to have sharp knives or dull knives when we're talking about knives generally?
Sharp.
Yeah, we want sharp knives, right? All right, so where then can we get knives sharpened in town?
Kroger.
Nice job, awesome. Totally, yes. You can totally answer, totally fine. If you want to be a know-it-all, that's cool. Yeah, if you take your knife to the meat counter at Kroger, they'll do it for you for free. They will. Yeah, they're not like fantastic at it, but they're better than you and probably better than me, and it's free.
They do like chef knives and Sanfugo type knives?
So they will do, I would take anything with a straight blade there. I wouldn't take anything without a straight, so if you have a serrated knife, so that would take it there.
What about ceramic knife?
Not supposed to sharpen this.
Well, yeah.
Or not on metal.
Yeah, sure, right.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it there. They wouldn't know what to do.
Oh,
with
no,
it.
I don't know if they have the equipment.
But there is a knife sharpener just outside of Athens Park and in Madison County. He does it out of like an outbuilding from his house. He's a great dude. He does like saws and like power tool blades, but he also does knives. Does a good job. So that's another place. And it's like $2 or $3 a knife there. Never pay more than like $4 to sharpen your knife. That guy's just pulling the wool over your eyes. That's happening. All right, Dan. Just passing it down the line.
Okay.
Well, you're the person who
I know,
was
this
challenged by
should be
me.
my job.
I have a question
What's up?
about chicken. So did you wash it or do you rinse it before? Or?
No,
Okay.
I don't rinse it. I don't think I mean, has anyone heard of a reason to rinse it before? I actually don't know of a great reason to rinse it. Maybe if it's like, you know, you defeathered it or it's still it's got some stuff on it, maybe that's a reason to make sure you got everything out of there. But
Yeah.
other than that,
Okay.
not a real reason to do it. If you do, definitely pat it down after you've rinsed it. Because just more liquid on a cutting board is just going to be more likely for juices to fly different places and so on. So if you want, that knife isn't incredible. If you feel comfortable with it, you can use
I'm
the
gonna
system
try
there.
this one. I'm also a lefty.
Awesome. 2 of them. Nice. And you can kind of just keep sawing at it until you feel comfortable.
And
Good.
this is the part that you can.
Yeah, you can totally. You're just looking for the wider portions that kind of look like that. Yeah. All right, so while she's doing this, we're going to play a game of sorts. So you've got a card in front of you, it says Healthy Dog on it. So turn that over. And you've got some dry erase markers that y'all are going to share because there are not a bunch of them. So you guys have teams there. Sometimes you're fine. You're great. You can actually put it off the cutting board
Okay.
if you want to get it
I'll do
out.
that.
All right, so the first thing we're going to do is, so you're going to write on the back of that dry erase, and what I want you to do is just put down some sort of strategy that that someone could do to take in leaner protein, right? So animal proteins or plant-based proteins. It's like, I could eat more of this, or I could maybe make this dish which has this leaner protein, or I could try eating this because I've never eaten that before, things like that, all right? And we'll share some of those. If you can't think of anything, that's totally fine. You can put down a joke.
Strategy to eat leaner.
Yeah.
So leaner, not just more protein?
Yep. Yeah. It could be more leaner though. No worries. Fantastic.
I've got most of it on.
I think that looks great. Yeah, I wouldn't stress over it. That looks great. That's a good knife sound.
Good knife sound.
Yeah. It kind of sounded like a car. Do you want to try the knuckles?
Oh yeah, I should do that.
Okay.
You can if you want to. You don't have to. good.
Protein
So it's gonna look like that, and you're gonna rotate your hand kind of 90 degrees so that the knife is going up and down.
Let me try it with the.
Perfect. I like that. I like that. Good.
I'm
All right. So you can try this where, hold on one sec. So you can go in and kind of group them together with your hands there, and that's gonna help kind of go through.
This is gonna tell a joke.
Start with the tip all the way down.
Okay, so start like this, slide it up.
The tip doesn't have to be in the chicken. In fact, it's probably better to start it there.
There,
Or you just want to angle it up a bit more. With the other one.
You take off.
That feels,
So start here, start there, and
okay.
then go down. There. All right, y'all. What do we got? You guys there? Are you still thinking?
Rob's doing math.
Sorry.
It's okay. Are you proving a theorem back there or something?
About leaner protein.
About linear protein. The LPT, lean protein theorem. All right. Yeah. So let's start in the back row. What do you got?
Bean burgers.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I like that. Some sort of black bean or other bean burger.
As opposed to meat burger.
As opposed to meat. That works. Nice. All right.
I have tteokbokki sausages.
All right.
Pretty good.
How do y'all feel about those?
I
Yeah.
enjoy them.
Yeah.
Pretty tasty.
Awesome.
Got some different flavors.
That works. They do come in different flavors. Sun-dried tomato, right?
Yeah.
What are some other ones?
Like chicken, apple one.
Chicken apple flavored tofu. Sounds good. That's the way to do it. What do y'all have?
Oh yeah, Rob has, what is that, Euler? I said ground turkey to sub ground beef.
Nice.
So more like general.
All right, so let's talk about that real quick. Is ground turkey, is it always lower fat content than ground beef?
Well, it depends on the percentage of fat in the beef. and
Yeah,
the
right.
Percentage of fat in the turkey.
Exactly, right. So when we're looking at percentages of fat, what do we see on a package? What are the two numbers? What do they add up to, first of all?
100.
100, right? Yeah. So it could be like 90-10. So if it's 90-10, what is the 90 usually? If you're buying the What's the 90? The
Meat.
percentage of meat, and then the 10 would be the percentage of fat, right? Okay. So generally, so if we have 90-10 turkey and 90-10 beef, it's going to be, right, it's going to be fat-wise and kind of calorie-wise, things like that, not going to be a difference. Where's the difference going to be in those two products if we have 90-10 turkey and 90-10 beef?
Flavor.
Flavor? Yeah, absolutely. Where else?
Type of animal.
Yeah, sure. It's true, yeah. I'm looking for, that looks awesome. Nice job, let's clap for it. And absolutely. Price. Price is where the difference is, right? Which one's more expensive?
Beef.
Yeah. The beef's gonna be more expensive than the turkey if we're talking like 90-10, 90-10. So usually, I think it's a myth that people feel like turkey is, especially like ground turkey, like it's leaner. It's not necessarily leaner, it's just what you're talking about, right? It's just a percentage. But when we have equal percentages, the price is gonna be a lot different. So taste-wise, something you could do if you don't love the taste of turkey or you don't love the taste of beef and you like the other one, you can just mix them together. And especially if you're putting other spices and things like that, there's going to be some sort of difference you can taste, but not much. I'm definitely a proponent of telling things kind of real, so people who say like there's no taste difference, that's just not true, right? They're like different animals, it's not true. But it'll taste fine, it'll taste good. And then with turkey, it's cheaper as well. All right, let's move on. Next one.
Here's one, Brian.
I like to Google image search for recipes.
Did you say image search?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's his strategy, is searching.
Awesome. So what are your search terms?
Well, just like lean protein, like anything that'll show up.
All right. Lean protein? I bet you're gonna get like a bunch of whey protein and things like that. What are some other search terms?
Like lean protein for dinner or something.
Yeah,
Pictures are worth 1,000 words.
yeah, I think that's legit. Doing an image search. There's also a great website that the USDA has called USDA Mixing Bowl, and that's got about I think like 1,200 recipes at this point, and they've got it in a lot of different ways. So it's searchable by fruits or vegetables or whole grains, so all those different My Plate sections. Also like breakfast foods or snacks or reducing salt or reducing fat, things like that. So it's a really great website if you are looking for recipes that you want to try out. That's a good one, and I'll pull it up at the end so we can all kind of look at it as well. All right, next.
I said to take a class to learn about lean protein.
Sure, yeah. You're doing it right now. Yeah. So right now we had chicken out, right? And so I'm just going to clean up and make sure that no chicken goodness went anywhere we didn't want it to go. And I'm going to take care of those dishes over there in a sec. But that's a good one. Next.
What do you call a cow with 2 legs?
I know this. Oh, I do know it, but I'll let you say it.
Lean beef.
Lean beef. Such a good joke. Yeah. It is. No, I'm with
Wait,
you.
because it's lean? I don't know.
It's got 2 legs.
Wouldn't it
Oh,
completely
okay.
fall over?
And it's really lean.
It's a great joke. I asked for a joke, and you
But wouldn't
wanted
it
to.
just fall over? Would it lean?
But what do you call
Well, first it would lean,
with no
No.
and
legs?
then it would fall over.
Okay, what do you call it?
A cow with no legs.
Dinner.
Ground beef.
Oh, ground beef.
Boom.
Oh, good on.
Yeah.
All right,
That's clever.
next.
Lentils.
Lentils, nice. So using another kind of bean or pulse or lentil type thing, nice. And lastly,
Go for fish.
go for fish,
Okay.
nice. So most fish are real lean, and then also you get really great fats in fish as well. So I know that's weird because they're leaner, right? So you would think lean kind of usually means less fat, but the fats that are in fish, or some fish, especially the cold water ones like salmon and tuna, those have some really great fats in them that we don't necessarily get in a lot of other places. So great job on that, y'all. All right, so we're up to a really, really fun part, and that is mixing everything together and then getting it in the oven. All right, so what all ingredients do we need to put in this bowl and mix everything together?
Chicken.
All right, so the chicken's gonna go in,
Vegetables.
the onions, the chicken's gonna go in. What veggies do we need to make sure that are in there?
Onions, peppers, zucchinis.
Good. All right, what else?
Canola oil and top seasoning.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break from talking about lean protein and start talking a bit about some spices. So one of the issues oftentimes when we're flavoring things is a lot of salt. And so one of the ways we can reduce salt is by adding herbs, spices, vinegars, juices, things like that, which add flavor but don't necessarily add salt. We can also use lower sodium products like this. So we're just going to put a bunch of taco seasoning into all of these veggies, and that's going to be most of where our flavor comes from. I'm going to pass this around. This packet is like 70 cents or something like that, and there's maybe 2 of them, I think, in here. And we're not actually going to use all of this. We'll use about 3/4 of it. So we can pass that around. So instead of having to have like a whole cupboard of spices, right, you want to read for us, Natalie, what's in there?
Oh. Yes, spices is the first ingredient. And it says including, parentheses, including chili pepper, paprika, cumin, oregano, and then it has onion, whey, parentheses milk, dextrose, salt, potato starch, garlic, and natural flavor.
All right. Anyone know what dextrose is?
It's sugar.
It's a fancy word for sugar. Just like, it's actually a fancy word for glucose. No, it's just, glucose is part of table sugar. Right? Okay, so you're going to call out 2 people.
Ooh, well, I have to call out Lee.
All right, Lee, come on up.
Let's go with Natalie.
Natalie.
Whoa,
Great.
I get a mix around.
All right,
Be fine.
so first off, Lee, you're going to dump in maybe 2/3 of this.
Okay.
And Natalie, you're going to dump in all that whole. I love how you say it down here.
That's how they say it down here?
Whole? Yeah. Pretty fun.
The 2/3.
Anyone Southern?
You're
Yeah.
saying y'all too.
Yeah, I've been here for a while. Good. I'm gonna put a tiny bit more.
All right.
The only reason I'm not putting the whole thing in, like the recipe says, is because the volume of what I've got in here, I know, is probably different than what we would normally have for 4 times. However, if we put it all in, it would be totally fine. It wouldn't be a huge deal. Alright? Alright, so Lee, I want you to start mixing and then give Natalie whatever's going to fit in that bowl, and then both of y'all can continue to mix.
Sure.
Alright?
Just with our hands, yes.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you want some, well, you're already, if you want some gloves, I got some gloves for you too, but this is super fun, I think at least. So we've got some pans here, and those pans are already sprayed with non-stick spray. You can also just take, some oil, onto paper towel and just kind of spread it around there, and that'll do the same thing as having the spray, right? So what we're going to do is when they've got them all mixed up, we're going to put them in the pans, but we want to make sure we're not stacking a bunch on top of each other. We want kind of one layer on the bottom there. The reason is because if we've got a big layer, it's going to take a lot longer for it to actually cook. So how long do we want it to be in the oven? About 35 minutes, and that's going to ensure definitely that the chicken is totally cooked. Let's talk real quickly about why it would take longer or shorter depending on some temperature stuff. All right, I think it looks good. Let's do one pass back and forth to make sure we're totally even. Good. Very nice. And then let's see. Hopefully we should be able to get in these two pans. If not, we've got a third as well. But just kind of one layer. It can be sort of stacked, but just not its own. Good. All right, so if our chicken was frozen at the start of this, is it going to take longer or shorter in the oven? Longer, right? Okay, so when you have recipes, it's not like some magic thing where you put it in the oven for a magic amount of time, and then it's done, right? So we've got a temperature that these things need to get to. Anyone know? And when you guys are done, you can just put the bowls into the sink over there, right? So let's take some of this and put it in this pan.
Okay.
And the same with this, probably the same amount.
Just make them all like level.
Well, yeah. We don't want it to be too thick on the bottom there. All right, great. Spread that maybe a tiny bit more from that one in this pan, just a tiny bit, and we should be good after that. It is really nice and colorful, isn't it?
Yeah, right?
All right, we'll talk about that in a sec. Well, that's good. All right, yeah, that looks good. So this is what we're looking for with the kind of level. We just don't want like mounds and mounds of vegetables on top. It's going to take a bit of time to do it.
Okay, 'cause this one
All right, yeah, wash it up.
has
Go
more
for it.
meat, so maybe we should. Do they all have the same amount of meat to cook equally?
We're at the end. We can totally kind of put them all together.
Okay.
It's
I
not
was
even
thinking
hard.
for a time for meat. Is it
So
better to
with
have like?
that's a really good question. For the amount of time we've got it in,
Yeah.
we're not going to have to worry about it.
Okay.
Because the vegetables are going to take a bit of time as well. Awesome. So any questions on the taco recipe? No? Pretty straightforward. We're just cutting some stuff up. We're mixing it with a packet of seasoning. And that'll be about it. What are some other vegetables that you might like to put in if maybe you don't have these, or you just want to try some other stuff? What are some other things you think might go well in the recipe?
I like poblano peppers.
Boom. I like poblanos a lot. Why do you like them?
Because it tastes good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I like
A
them.
little bit piquant, just a bit spicy.
Yeah, they're a bit spicier, and also, especially compared to the red and yellow and orange bell peppers, they're also cheaper. They're sold they're like $2.29 a pound versus bell peppers, which are usually sold each. And poblanos are end up being super light. So those are really great. They're also, like you were saying, they're a bit spicier. So if we wanted it to be spicier and we didn't have poblanos, what are some other things we could do? What other things can we put in? Yeah, we could put in red pepper flakes, we could put in hot sauce, we could put in jalapenos. If you wanted to go crazy, you could put in habaneros. Lots of stuff you can do. What other vegetables do y'all like to put in? You have the choice.
I use shredded carrots.
All right, shredded carrots. That's a great one. Why shredded versus other versions of carrots?
Easier to eat.
All right, easier to eat, and you can maybe they hide a bit better in there. And then also, if we were doing like cubes of carrots, it would take a long time for those things to cook too, right? So doing shredded carrots would ensure that we don't have to worry about it being super crunchy at the end of it. All right. Any other questions or comments right now? Sweet. Awesome. So let's move on to the black bean recipe. And we're going to start by chopping that. What is that? Good work. That is an onion. Specifically a yellow onion. Someone said that. Nice job. So, the onion has two sides here. One of them grows towards the center of the earth, and one of them grows towards the sky. Which one, the right or the left side, grows towards the center of the earth?
Left.
My right.
Yes.
Grows where?
Center.
Center of the earth. Nice job. All right, so this, we rotate it like that. It's got this big green thing. That's going to be above ground. By the way, everything that we use today I already washed beforehand, but it's very important to wash our fruits and vegetables before we use them. All right, so the reason we want to know what we're cutting off is because we want to take the top off. All right, and we'll take the top off. Bring the compost bowl over. Chill out the rust for a while. And then what we want to do is we want to make a cut through the root so that the root is on both sides. All right, so we can use that same one with our hand up top again. Roots on both sides. It's always nice to cut something that's flat so it doesn't have to like roll around all over the place. And then you'll notice here, maybe you can see it, the onion kind of grows from the bottom there, so we got almost concentric things going on there. And what we'll do is we'll peel, and we're eventually going to get pieces about that big. That's what we're hoping to get to. So we'll peel our onion, we'll get that outer layer off, and sometimes the second layer is also kind of leathery. This one is kind of halfway in between. So we're going to take it off, but before I do that, just kind of give it a feel there. Feel how it's kind of leathery. So that doesn't necessarily cook down nearly as well as the layers that are underneath it, which is why we're going to take that one off. It will probably cook down pretty well, but not as well as the other ones. So onions are pretty cheap, so it's not a huge deal. There it is. Cool. All right. Don't walk by the camera. All right. So we're taking that off, and the next thing we'll do is we're going to make some cuts vertically and not all the way back, all right? So we're not going all the way back to the root, we're just going most of the way. So that first one was incorrect because I separated it. But when we do that, we're kind of scoring it, and then we'll just rotate. So we've got all these pieces, and if we were at like the Outback, we could take this and batter it and deep fry it, and it would be delicious. It would be really good. We're not there, so we're going to keep going. We'll take our fingers like regular. We'll go down and through, and so we now have these nice small pieces, and we don't have to kind of go all over the place. At some point, it's going to be kind of awkward to hold with our fingers, so we can just lay it down, keep going, and then bring it back up, and that's it for onion. All right, so who was up? Natalie's up here with you. You already picked someone though, so go ahead and pick someone.
Right.
I see a pattern.
Just going around. For being a bunch of left-handed folks, you guys aren't that creative. Good for you. Or maybe they're just following a pattern. Gotta follow the pattern. All right, while he's doing that, we'll go on to the next question, which is, let's just name a way that you could eat beans. So, a baked bean, or something like this, like a black bean. Any sort of bean, in any sort of way. We're just getting ideas today. Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna see if I can use this answer for every answer.
Ooh, I
All right, let's do the whole.
Do you describe the mechanism, or do you describe
Sure.
the end product?
So if you see what you've got going on here, we still have some flesh. So we're still, if we already did ourselves, we're still pretty easy. So what I want you to do is put your fingertips on there. That's the one. That's perfect. Very nice. And it's going to get kind of awkward in the hole. At this point, you can just move down. That looks awesome. Nice job.
That's close by.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's like by
Put it in the
like
bowl.
so if you go down soft knowledge, you get like.
Also, we need a clap for him because he did it.
Then you go into like the food. It's like right there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's right in that area.
Yeah. Use leader.
Did you get the prompt?
I'll give you all maybe 20 more seconds and then we'll move on. We have a spelling question? That's fun. Awesome. All right. Let's start right here with Ernest, and we'll go clockwise.
Bean burgers.
Nice. What kind of bean
You
burgers?
cheated.
Like black bean burgers.
You call that a joke?
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna give us a joke.
From a can under a bridge.
That's awesome. I love that image. That's great. Awesome.
I guess.
What kind of beans in the can? Sorry. I got it
Probably baked.
The
Alright.
cheapest one.
down. The cheapest ones.
Yeah, with this.
Oh, that's what you have.
With a spin.
With a spin.
Awesome. I love it.
So my method food processor product is hummus.
Nice.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh, you all, oh.
I got it.
Not even a joke?
No.
No? Alright. Hummus.
I put bean salads.
Nice.
Yeah, like 8 different kinds.
Chili.
Awesome. Chili.
That's the
Delicious. Good.
Stew,
Stew. Bean stew or beans with other meats and other things.
lime beans with some ham hocks.
Lamb with beans with ham hocks. Nice. Very nice.
So you mash them into a paste and then making them into a quesadilla.
Nice. Black bean quesadilla with some cheese. I like it.
It's like a Mexican hummus.
Yeah.
It's like all the time.
So these are all things. A bunch of you guys were talking about time and not a lot of ingredients. These are all really good ways to get some beans in. And you've got other protein there in the form of cheese as well. So if you're eating a lot of cheese and tortillas, you can totally add some beans in there. And what you could do also is you could mash them up like at the beginning of the week and just have them in your fridge so you can just spoon it on there, spread it around, and do it, right? You could do something similar with the vegetables. So even if you didn't want to do the chicken, but you want to do veggies, you could just bake a bunch of vegetables at the beginning of the week and just have them for your quesadillas or whatever, and that's what you could do for lunches or something like that.
Can you talk about fridge life of food?
I can, yeah, I can. We're gonna
Maybe that's
keep
not
going
a good
with
time,
this,
but yeah.
and I absolutely will do it.
Okay.
All right. So the next thing we're gonna do is jalapeno. That's what this is. It's a pretty big one too. Do y'all like spicy food, or do you like kind of middle of the road? Anyone who's like, man, I hate spicy food.
I
Can't
like
take it.
spicy.
We're all pretty good with it. All right. Yeah. Yeah? You're all right with it? All right. All right. So we're gonna take the top off. Where on the jalapeno? Where's the kind of spicy portion? The seeds, and then the membrane that holds it holds the seeds to the actual jalapeno, right? So I'm gonna say it a couple times, but after you're done cutting jalapenos, you definitely want to wash your hands multiple times for a while, all right? Okay. Because otherwise, if you go to your eyes, you're gonna be really mad at the world. So if you wanted it to be not very spicy, you could just not use jalapeno. If you wanted it to be kind of spicy, but not really, you could take out both of the membranes and just have the flesh portion. If you want it to be medium, you could put in one half and take out the other, or like we're gonna do today, if we like spicy food, we're gonna leave both in there, right? I already took out the half of the other jalapeno that I chopped up, so it's not gonna be super spicy. But honestly, with jalapenos and other hot peppers, it kind of depends on the pepper itself. Some are much spicier than others. So much like the other, the bell pepper, we're gonna cut into strips. So remember, we're gonna have our tip down and then go down and forward and drive that tip up so we get all the way to the back there. I'm gonna do this first half and someone else is gonna do the second half. And then especially with jalapeno, we wanna do it, we wanna get them as small as we can, because even if we love spicy food, chopping into a huge piece of jalapeno isn't gonna be the nicest thing in the world. All right, so we're gonna take our knife. Really important here, or really useful to have our knuckles there, because that can really help us gauge thickness. And we have these nice small pieces. I'll go a bit slower. So remember, the tip is down. We'll go down, push forward, and drive the tip up so the back is through. And that's about it. So go ahead and pick the next person.
Kenny.
All right.
Mini jump.
Getting crazy. All right. Did we get through all the beans? I think we did, right? All right, so Kenny, you wanted to hear about shelf life of food,
Yes.
right? So what in particular are you thinking about?
I don't know. So I just kind of have in my mind 4 days. So if I cook something like, say, on Sunday night, that I can eat it all the way through until Thursday night, at which point I should probably stop eating leftovers.
Okay. So what are you talking about specifically? Just like literally everything right now?
Pretty much. I mean, like, so. You talking?
You
cutting
cooked
this
ribs
into
on
this-
Sunday, right? You told me.
Was that? Yeah. So this
So
last
you're
Sunday,
not
for
gonna eat
example,
them
I
tomorrow?
cooked ribs. On
Okay.
Sunday. So I was planning on having those tomorrow night. They're probably still fine.
Yeah, so we really want to make sure that we get it heated through again up to temp. That's kind of one of the big things first. We want to get it outside of what we call the temperature danger zone. You're doing great, by the way. Okay. That looks great. We want to get it. We want to make sure it's fully heated up again. So if it's in the microwave, especially, so imagine the situation, right? You made ribs, you said, right? Okay, watch that thumb, just make sure it's not good, perfect. So you made ribs, so how long between the time the ribs came out of the oven and the time you got it into the fridge did it take?
There was
Okay, so we had that, and then also how long is it going to take to actually get cool in the fridge? So if you leave it out for 3 hours, you're going to have fewer days kind of life than if you get it in the fridge relatively quickly. That's not to say you have to like not eat it when it comes out. You got to put away the rest of the stuff. But leaving it out for like 2.5 hours or something like that, and then putting it in isn't going to do you as well as trying to get them in relatively quickly. It's kind of interesting. There's some. That looks great. Nice job. Nice platform. I got it. Yeah. So I'm going to come back to that, but. So we've got this pot here, it's already mostly hot. We're gonna put the onions and the jalapenos in, and we're gonna do what's called sweating with those. So sweating is cooking, usually it's cooking vegetables in a pot with minimal or no fat with the top on. And what that does is it uses the moisture in the fruits and vegetables to kind of keep everything moving around. You don't have to put a lot of fat in there to keep it moving around. All right, so that's gonna go in. And the heat's going to be at 7 out of 10, but honestly, a lot of stoves are different, so it's like medium-high. That's where I'm at right now. And we're going to cook it until those onions are translucent, and I will take the onions on a tour so you can see kind of what's going on before we move on. All right, so that's the first thing, trying to get it down to temp. It's kind of interesting. There's some... I think there's been research that says like if you get it in the fridge, it's no faster for that first like maybe half an hour or something when it's getting down to room temperature. It's like not that much faster than just leaving it out. So, and then you don't have to like make your fridge work super hard because you're putting something super hot in your fridge, right? So letting it get down to relatively cool and then putting it in the fridge is probably the way to go. But getting it in the fridge so that it hasn't sat out beforehand is going to make sure that the life kind of is better on the back end. But that's really only food safety wise, right? Like texture wise, different things can happen, and that isn't really going to change based on when you get it in the fridge, how kind of far past you get in the fridge. I think it's probably safe that if you get it in the fridge in a decent amount of time, 3 or 4 days, it's probably going to be fine. As far as like produce, different produce does different things in the fridge. So if you have specific questions, I can totally answer those. As far as freezing things, you got like 3 to 6 months out of things if you're freezing stuff. So you could totally take the recipe we're doing right now, you could freeze portions in individual bags, put them in the freezer, and you could then take those bags, take it out of the bag, put it in a bowl or some sort of plate in the microwave and heat up the microwave, and you'd be totally fine. It would take a little while in the microwave, but that would be maybe you're just like, I want to make these tacos, but I don't want to eat it 7 nights in a row. So like 3 or 4 of them you put in the freezer for 2 weeks or a month from now when you don't have time for stuff, and then 2 or 3 of them you eat during the week, something like that.
There's also a website called Still Tasty that gives pretty much for any food you can think of, both raw and cooked. It'll tell you how to store it initially, or if you want to store it longer, what to do. If we freeze it,
awesome.
You have to do some extra stuff.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that website. I'm gonna totally look it up.
It might be an app too.
Oh, it might be an app as well.
Still tasty.
That's cool. I'm not going to recommend it because I've literally never seen it, but it sounds like something to check out. And you know, if it seems shady, don't do it. If it doesn't seem shady, you guys are all adults. You can figure that out, hopefully.
So Ben, you mentioned that like heating up the meat again is important, but like what about like cold turkey sandwich?
Yeah,
Like,
that's fine.
so
If we're talking about something that's been out of refrigeration, like we had it pretty hot, and then it took like 2 or 3 hours to get back down to the temperature we want it to be, and then we're eating it again, it's just more likely, like if anything is there, then heating it up again is going to help us out. It's not like a huge deal, but if you want to be, if let's say it's day 6 or something like that, you're like, you're doing like that
doesn't
thing.
smell bad.
Heating it back up is going to ensure that if there was something there,
Okay.
at least you're a bit safer.
Because I would think like even eating ribs cold is fine.
Yeah, it'll likely be fine. Yeah. And some things just taste. I mean, the ribs are probably gonna taste better also if they're not cold. But
Yeah.
sometimes you don't got that time, and you're just like, these ribs look delicious. Yeah. All right. So the next thing we're gonna do. These are sweating in the pan or in the pot. What else do we need to put in there? There's something else we need to put in right now.
Garlic.
Yeah, the garlic. Garlic's gonna go in, and then we're gonna mix it around. We're gonna mix it with a wooden spoon. Garlic's gonna go in. We'll mix it around a bit, and those onions are almost where we want them. So we gotta get everything else kind of ready. So we've got a bunch of black beans here. Again, in an effort to reduce the salt, we're going to take them and do what? Anyone know?
Rinse them.
Yeah, we're gonna rinse them. Good. So pick the next person.
And like,
Off you go.
Off you go. All right, Ernest. So you're gonna take all these cans. You're gonna dump them all in that colander, and then you're going to run some water over them, kind of mix them around, and get all the delicious bean sludge off of them.
Sweet.
All right? Because that delicious bean sludge is not that delicious. I totally lied with that. All right, so that's about what we're looking for. You can kind of start to see through the onions. They're not totally white. That's what we're looking for there.
And there was no oil in there, or just
No oil. No, there's no oil. And so, the American Heart Association actually recommends that up to 30% of your total calories throughout the day come from fat. So we're not necessarily trying to take fat totally out of the diet, but usually for most people, they get enough of it. And so, trying to find ways to reduce it generally when we're talking about cooking, that's kind of where we usually go. But you can totally put a tiny bit of fat in the bottom of the pan. One reason might be if you don't have a pot, if you don't have a cover for this, the moisture is going to go away and you're not going to be able to sweat as well. So putting some oil in there will help ensure it doesn't burn. Another one might be you don't feel like thinking about it, or you know you're going to forget or something like that. So you got it on really low heat, you got some oil in there, you're just going to have more room for error to remember, that it's there and you can come back and do it. A lot of times when people are cooking, one of the big mistakes people make is just like forgetting things, and then they come back and it's like too far. So the first kind of like the first advice I give people is just pay attention a bit more when you're doing some cooking, and a lot of times that helps out.
You needed some.
All right. So Ernest, I bet you're doing great. Yeah, that looks perfect. You don't need to go crazy with it. We just want to get most of it out of there. So all of this is nice and cooked, and I'm going to bring the pot over to you, and you can just dump. All right? I got it. You can just dump the colander into the pot. Very nice. Perfect. Thank you. And you can leave the colander in there. What else are we putting into this pot?
Lime juice.
Lime juice. That's going in. What else?
Cumin.
Cumin. All right. So I'm going to pass this around. You guys can give that a sniff. It's kind of one of the main seasonings in Mexican food, just kind of generally. I'm also going to pass the taco seasoning around, so you guys can give that a sniff too and know what that smells like. What else are we putting in?
Chicken stock.
Chicken stock's going in as well. You can totally use water if you want to. You're just going to want to add some salt behind the water. Chicken stock is essentially our source of salt, which is going to help with flavor as well. So we're just putting everything into that pot. We're going to stir it around with our wooden spoon, and that's it for the beans. That's all we got to do. They will absolutely get better if you cook them longer. They're going to be great today, but they will get better if you put them on the stove and leave them there for like an hour on low heat. They'll absolutely get better, but they'll be great today, I promise.
Yeah.
That's it for the beans.
You already cooked from the can too. right?
Huh? Absolutely, yeah. So we're just getting them up to temp here, and then we want to give them at least like 10 minutes, because we want to let the flavors talk to each other and get to know each other and kind of meld together. But if you do it for an hour, it's just going to be better. This is something actually, if you heated it up and put it in the fridge, actually, you could totally make this and not even heat it up and just do the whole thing in the microwave. You could do this whole recipe in the microwave, and that would be totally fine if you didn't want to do it on the stove top or you didn't have access to a stove. That would be totally fine. But this one's actually going to be better on day 1 or day 2 versus day 0. And then it'll kind of jump the shark at around day 3 or 4 or something like that. You're going to want to toss it. But you could totally freeze it, and that would work too. You could also make this and then mash it up and put it with some cheese, and that would be another version of what you got usually as well. All right, so let's do another question. That's what we're going to call it, yeah. So let's just talk about a plant-based protein that you enjoy. So quickly we'll go over it. What are protein foods that are not meat? What all do we have? Legumes.
Yogurt.
So yogurt's in the dairy group, but it would be it's not necessarily plant-based protein food,
What about
right?
like rice bowl?
All right, so we'll talk about that. That's not going to be in there. What else?
Like avocado and like nuts count, or is that more of a fat?
So nuts are going to be in the protein foods group as well, but avocado is a vegetable, and it's going to have really nice healthy fats, but it's not going to have a lot of protein. What else? Tofu, so like soy products. Quinoa is a grain, but it does have a lot of protein. It's a good source of protein. Also eggs, which are another animal protein, but some people leave it out of the animal column. Nuts, seeds as well, that's another one. We got beans, and I think that's it. So, a favorite version of a plant-based protein food. Go.
Are we writing it down?
Oh, you're writing it down. We're discussing this.
Actually, it should be really, right? I mean, like.
You could totally use the same. Yeah, a lot of these we're getting the same answer.
Oh, man.
Challenge yourself to have a different
What
answer.
are any favorites?
Kenny, you're just gonna keep back at this year?
Well, honestly, I can't erase it. It doesn't want to come off at all. So it's meant to be.
The crumbs?
That's awesome.
Already?
Yeah, don't worry. Try it.
Yeah, salmon. That's a very plant-based.
Cross it out. Do another one. You guys got this. You grad students. You got here somehow.
I ran out of ink. Cross it out. It's meant to be salmon. It's salmon.
We all know, alright, is salmon a plant or an animal, everyone?
Animal.
What? Someone should have said, what's the other one, right? Like fungus? Those aren't animals or plants. They're classified as animals, right? Right?
Right.
What are the nutritional contents of mushrooms?
So you've got a lot of micronutrients and phytochemicals, but you don't have a lot of, there's like almost no caloric value.
Oh, really?
But you're going to get like, micronutrients are like vitamins and minerals, so you'll get some real fun minerals in there. And also what we call phytochemicals, which are like things that we don't necessarily know we need, but through food we actually end up getting them. So it's kind of the argument between, like vitamins are really great, right, as a supplement, but we only know what to put in there, what's actually in there. And there's going to be plenty of things that we're going to discover at some point that we're like, oh, we actually do need that, but we didn't know to put it into the supplement. That's why food is really the best way to get our nutrition. It's first food, and then vitamins are kind of like insurance policies, but they're not like, everything. All right, let's do it.
Raw almonds.
Raw almonds, sounds delicious.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter, awesome.
There's this okara salad.
No.
Tofu related.
Tofu related salads?
Yeah.
What
it's
are the
soy-
flavors?
It's, a soy product. It's delicious flavors.
All right. Will you spell it? Will you put it on one of those sheets of paper and spell it?
Wait, what did you say, Ernest?
Oh, on the piece.
I think you said okara, right?
You're gonna give it that. Maybe on the flavor.
Yeah, any of the waivers or anything like that.
I was gonna say almonds.
Yeah, awesome.
I just substitute quinoa with the rice with quinoa.
Yeah, that's gonna get you a lot of protein for sure.
Are we talking about substitute or just how we like?
Just
to-
like
just
how you
specific-
how you enjoy plant-based protein.
So I said chickpea masala
Nice,
because I like Indian food.
nice. I do too. It's good.
What peanut butter?
Peanut butter, nice. Anyone have other nut butters besides peanuts?
Almond butter.
Almond?
It's expensive.
That's so expensive.
Yeah, it's
It is expensive.
Not for this grad student.
Yeah, seriously. Seriously. There was a time at Kroger where they had it for $4 a pound, which is really cheap. But
They sell at Costco.
that time is no more. Time is past.
Wait, when was this? When were they selling it for $4 a pound?
This is a couple of years ago.
1980 or something.
It's a couple of years ago. 1980s.
Could you, then
Back
could you
when
like
gas
put
was
that on
20
the
cents a
listserv if that
Yeah, that happens, yeah. They sell nut butter grinders essentially for pretty cheap. And then you could buy and do it yourself, and you could add fun things like cinnamon or honey or
Or a
chocolate
mix.
chips or something like that. Yeah, or you can mix. I'm always lobbying them to do sunflower butter because sunflower seeds are like $2 a pound or something. They would make a killing. $5 a pound for that, they'd kill it, but they haven't done it.
Don't they? I feel like I've seen that before.
I mean, they do in the jar, but like
Yeah.
out of the hopper, they don't do that out of the hopper. They're already selling it for like $2 a pound or something like that.
Do you grind your own peanuts?
I
and
don't.
stuff, or not?
All right, next.
I have tempeh.
Nice. Another delicious soy product.
I wrote down peanut butter and banana smoothie, which you can make with
Yeah.
like almond milk or something.
Delicious. Delicious.
Marinated, cooked, stir-fried, baked.
Awesome. Very nice. Very nice. Those are some delicious options, y'all. So these should be about there. I'm going to rotate them and give them about 5 more minutes while we finish up a couple other things. But and then we're going to check the temp on them. Rotating things in the oven just ensures that things cook evenly, so that's always nice. But you don't necessarily have to if you don't feel like doing it yourself. So that's rotated. We'll get back to that in 5 minutes, and that is when we were going to eat in about 5 minutes. So the last couple things we have to do, we're going to talk a bit about whole grains. We got to chop up some cilantro and then get everything set. All right. So this is cilantro. We're gonna keep it on the side because there are some people in this world who actually are genetically disposed to hate it. That's a fact.
Genetically disposed?
Yeah. They've decided that it's a gene, and people are genetically disposed to really dislike cilantro.
I might go one of them. I really do.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
It's a pretty high percentage of
Who
people.
else said that?
It's like 20%.
Yeah.
That's really high. All right, but we're going to show a technique, though, that is useful for a lot of different herbs. So with cilantro, sometimes people kind of sit there and pick every leaf, and that can be really frustrating and take a long time. So what I like to do is find kind of where the fronds mostly start, and the stalks are also, there's going to be stalk the whole way, but about 2/3 of the way up. So we got mostly stalk in here, and then we've got some nice leaves. And then, instead of having our hand on the side, we're going to bring it up to the top and flat, like this. And we're going to take our right hand and just go up and down, and then group it together again, and then go through. And we're just going to do it until we feel like it's small enough to put on top of things. All right, so you want to come on up and do it?
Sure.
I don't think you've come up and done anything yet, right? All right. You got to go the long way, sorry. The viewers at home need to be able to see.
Slide.
So what did you call the leaves? Fronds?
I don't know if that's an actual term.
Oh. You just nicknamed them, or?
Fronds, you can use that term for like palm trees, like palm fronds, like that's the end portion. I might have just made that up. It's possible that someone else in this world has at some point called it that.
Technical term for the leaf of a cilantro.
Yeah. You can also call them leaves. That also works. So the only thing to worry about, keep going, you're fine. The only thing to worry about with this technique is sometimes your left hand or the offhand sort of travels down and you can get the tip buried in your hand there. So what you want, you're doing what you want to do is just make sure that your hand stays on top and doesn't kind of just travel down. But other than that, it's great. And if you want to look super fancy, you can just go faster. But you totally don't have to. That's looking fantastic. Maybe one more pass.
It's already looking super
And then one more pass and you can just put it in the bowl there. All right, so Our beans are doing the boil thing here. They're doing well. If you don't want a ton of liquid in your beans, then at this point, once they're up to a boil, you just take the top off and the liquid goes away. But if you walked away and the liquid was going away and you didn't remember that your beans were doing things, then it might start to burn on the bottom. So that's the only reason to just pay attention to that. But right now what we want to do actually is get a few people up here to taste our beans and make sure they don't need some additional seasoning. And then after that, we're going to be basically there. All right, so who wants to come up and taste?
Jack has
Yeah,
one.
Oh, this is
The
best job.
That just reminds me of a nursery rhyme.
So definitely when you get some, give them some air. They're boiling in there right now. And when you're done, you can just drop the spoon in there. Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah. If you want to taste too, feel free.
Careful, Zach, it might be hot.
It will absolutely be hot. And you can, if you want to give them some air, you can also do it over the sink if you're worried about dropping some. But if you feel confident in your ability to. How are they doing? Good.
Good.
Good. Are they too spicy? Probably not for you. Are they spicy enough?
No.
All right, we got hot sauce, so you can put more. You can put more hot sauce in there. How you feel? Doing good? A little more salt. All right, let's do it. You want to put some in? So when we, no, you got it. When we salt things, it's really easy to put salt in. It's almost impossible to take it out, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our hand like that, and then we're going to go here and drop it in like that, and that's how we're going to do it. And maybe put in double what I just put in, and that'll probably be good. When you've done that, you can mix it up with the wooden spoon again, which is right there, and then grab another taste. 2 more of what you just put in. Fantastic. Nice job. All right, so give it a taste, and if it needs more, we can put more in. While she's doing that, you can just keep adjusting to what you want. There's more spoons here, but use a fresh spoon every time. The last thing we're going to talk about before we eat has to do with my plate over there, and we're going to talk about the grains group. So we've got, generally the recommendation is that half of our grains should be whole grains. So what is a whole grain? It's the whole actual grain. A refined grain has the bran and the germ taken out, so you've got that central portion, the endosperm. And when you do that, you have less protein, less vitamins and minerals, and less fiber, right? So we like whole grains because they've got more of those 3 things. How is it? Better now? Perfect? Awesome. I appreciate refined tastes like that. And by refined, I mean specific, not necessarily refined. I appreciate an opinion. That's really what I meant there. So we've actually got 2 options. I really dislike whole wheat tortillas. Really don't like them. But whole wheat taco shells, I'm totally fine with. So the message here is that at least half of our grains are whole grains, and the reason it's half is because sometimes you just don't want a whole grain product over a refined grain product. Same thing with me and baguettes. Really don't like whole wheat baguettes. I'd much rather have a white baguette, right? But what are some other versions of whole grains?
Brown rice.
Brown rice. What else?
Quinoa.
Quinoa is a whole grain. What else? What are some other
Oatmeal.
ways we might eat it? Yeah, oatmeal. That's a good one.
Pasta.
Pasta. We can get whole grain pasta, right? Breakfast cereals, like most breakfast cereals, are also whole grains. So that's another place we can get whole grains.
Bread.
Whole wheat bread. How do we know when we're looking at a bread product? How do we know what we're looking at is a whole grain? Where do we look on the package?
Ingredients.
Where on the ingredients? Sorry, where should it be?
First.
Should be the first ingredient, yeah. So if we looked at these, the first ingredient should say something to the effect of whole grain. And in fact, if I can find the ingredients, there it is. There it is. Whole grain yellow corn. So there it is. That's the first ingredient. All right. Other questions I didn't get to while I'm setting up, because we're about 2 minutes here for meeting. I just got to get my button here.
Wheat and rice as a source of protein. Is that negligible or?
So whole grains are going to have more protein than refined grains. Definitely not a negligible source. Definitely a good amount of protein. However, when you're eating a meal, you do usually want to pair a food that has mostly carbohydrate, so that's all the grains we just talked about, with something that has with something that has a good amount of protein, so those other protein foods we talked about. So that's like beans and rice, a great example, right? Or peanut butter and on bread with maybe some jelly, also another good example. And what that does is we've got carbohydrate is the body's preferred source of energy. So our brain can only use carbohydrate actually. So what has to happen is if we don't have enough carb on board, we've got to convert protein or fat into carbohydrate to use as energy. So carbohydrate is going to provide energy, and then protein and or fat, depending on what you've got, is going to help extend the energy over a longer period of time. So if you had like Jolly Ranchers and just ate a bunch of Jolly Ranchers, you would get that energy, but your body's going to go through it pretty quickly, versus, it's here, versus even something like a Snickers bar. I mean, it's not the preferred source of calories generally over a long period of time, but if that's what's happening, that's totally fine. Or if it's dessert or whatever, that's going to have a lot more fat and some protein as well, so it's going to keep you fuller longer than just, say, orange juice or something.
And that's because your body converts it to carbohydrates?
No, it just takes longer for it to digest. That's a great question, yeah. It's just going to take longer for your body to digest fat and protein than it does carbohydrate. But we don't eat things, generally we don't eat things in just like, I'm going to eat a serving of carbohydrate here, right? We generally eat
Well,
some...
jelly beans.
Sure.
Sprite.
Sure. Those are all great examples. But we've got meals, right? So even if we're eating rice, we'll probably eat something else with it. And so it's not like your body's going to separate the rice from whatever else you're eating, and that's just going to be that. You're going to eat everything together, so generally it's not something to pay attention to unless you're eating something like a snack, in which case, in the snacks case, it would be nice to have some of those protein foods or something that's a bit higher than that as well. No, you're great. You're good. I promise, yeah. So in this case, you were talking about making sure that our meat is done, right? Okay, so come on up. What we're going to do, come on up. Yeah. We're going to find the thickest piece, and we're going to put this red probe. We're going to put the red probe in the middle of the thickest piece, and that's going to be the coolest portion. That's going to ensure that it is done. What temperature are we looking for chicken? Anyone know?
165.
165. Great. So you're going to find the thickest piece and put that red portion in the middle of it. And I guarantee it's going to be way over 165. And usually...
Already, it's like 200.
Great. So usually, this, we could have done a lot less time on this, and that would have been fine. Usually, you can just... Yeah. Usually that's an issue, that our chicken is way too high, because the issue with that would just be that it gets kind of dry, right? So when we're like, let's say we're grilling something, if we're doing steak, for beef, the number for a cut of beef is 145, and that's when we make sure it's safe. But anywhere north of that, it's just gonna, I mean, it's fine, it's still safe, but it's not gonna probably taste as much unless you like well-done steak, in which case, go nuts. So kind of the same thing with chicken or fish. Fish is 145, and having it at 145 or 155 is gonna taste a lot better than like 190 or 200 or something like that. All right, y'all, so in this bowl, we've got plain Greek yogurt, which is what we're using in place of sour cream. So you should try that out. It tastes almost exactly the same. It doesn't taste exactly the same, but almost. We've got some hot sauce there if you want that. So let's grab 2 lines. Y'all can just come up, grab some plates. We got 2 lines, and we'll start eating.
I'll go first. I might as well.
Have you ever been in like an event?
Did I forget anything? Yeah.
I thought you were feeling
Okay, does anybody need more water?
I just grabbed one of the extra.
Grab. That's perfect. That works.
Like in rows. These tortillas, I mean taco shells.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, taco shells are super cheap too. They're real cheap. Or you could, if you didn't want to buy taco shells and you had chips on hand, you could totally just like make nachos out of this recipe too, right? A lot of different versions of vegetables with vaguely Mexican spice and some sort of bread product. You can totally get a new one if you want.
Chicken is so tasty.
Good, awesome. So you could definitely also, if you wanted to, you could do it with ground beef as well. You could totally mix ground beef in and put it in the oven for a while, and that would work as well. Same thing. Or another ground meat. Or tofu.
Shrimp.
You could absolutely do it with tofu or shrimp too. You could do it with a lot of
I've
different
never
things.
thought of like making taco meat in the oven.
Yeah.
I have a really good crock pot recipe.
You could totally do this in the crock pot too.
It's very good.
It would absolutely work in the crock pot as well.
I don't add the other vegetables.
Alright, so as you guys are eating, I just want to show you a couple more things if you want to look at the TV. This is the Health Center homepage. So if you scroll down, there's a button here that says take a cooking class. That gets you to the cooking class website, which looks like this. And so all the upcoming classes for this semester are on the cooking class website. And normally it is $5 for students who have paid their fees, or $10 if you haven't paid your health center fees. You always get a meal out of it. The recipes are up there. Even if you don't want to come to the class or you can't, but you still want the recipe, the recipes from past classes, the most recent ones, are either over here on the right-hand side, or you can scroll up and there's a button here that says Recipe Archives, and that's the master list of all the recipes. So they're all PDFs. You can check them out whenever you want. You should eat, totally. Don't wait for anyone. Or, okay, cool. So there's that, and then also we talked about the USDA Mixing Bowl as well as another source for recipes. So there's also a ton of nutrition information on our website if you just want to kind of like want some general tips. You can always also just email me if you have questions about recipes or other nutrition topics, something like that. Happy to answer questions. If you all want some more, by the way, come up and grab more. That's totally fine. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, and if you want to do a class and it's not scheduled, or you want to do a recipe that's not necessarily scheduled, you want to do it at a different time, all you got to do is get a group of at least 6 people together, and we can do a class at a time that works in your schedule as well, for whatever food you want to do within kind of reason. Most things we can get taken care of.
Is there additional fee for the
Nope.
schedule?
No,
Wow.
it's just gotta have at least 6 people, and it's gotta fit in my schedule and yours. So at the end of the semester, it can be a bit more challenging to schedule classes than it is at the beginning.
How far in advance should we let you know about that?
Yeah, so at the end of the semester, it might be November 1st that I just don't have any more room. But if you middle of September or middle of October, we should be able to find a spot. Also, I'm not sure if I'm going to be around during the holidays, but summertime, I definitely do them, but there's not a lot of people around. So if you want to do classes during the summertime, happy to do that as well. Classes happen Monday through Thursday nights. They won't happen Friday nights because I don't want to be here Friday nights. But we can also we can do lunchtime classes or mid-morning too.
What do you cook, like brunches?
Yeah, we just do whatever. I mean, we can do lunch. We can do whatever.
Tacos?
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Sure. Yeah, the earliest I'll do a class is 10 a.m. because I need some time to do it to prep beforehand. But and it's also later in the semester, it's much more likely that I've got that open than an evening. But I definitely need, in any case, I need 2 weeks notice to do a class usually because we got to make sure that, well, that's not true for evening classes. For lunchtime classes, you might get lucky and we could totally just do it 4 days from now. That just depends on my schedule and yours. All right, I'm going to stop talking unless anyone else has questions. I'll be happy to answer other questions. Did I get to most of the things y'all wanted to talk about? Yeah, cool.
Are you a student vet or are you?
I'm not, no. I do this. This is my job. So I I'm the nutrition education coordinator, so I do this. I've got a couple of student groups who do education around campus. I do a tiny bit of counseling, and I'm also, I teach one class over the summer and then one class during the fall and spring semesters too. Yeah. I've got a lot of variety.